What's up, everybody? It's Danny Green back with Inside the Green Room, brought to you by Jack in the Box. My co-host Harrison Sanford, and we promise you guys we'll be back if we won after the first round. Here we are.
Yes, indeed. And, there are some people who might have been talking a bit crazy after game one of round one, but we'll discuss that later. We also want to discuss that big NBPA meeting that you were in this past week or last week, rather, yet that kind of put the games on hiatus again. But first and foremost, I think you just watched the video of your former teammate, Fred VanVleet, welcoming his kids into the bubble. You getting a little family envy?
Man, it's beautiful, man. It's so dope to see guys reunited with their kids and how much the kids miss them and love them. I only got dogs, so I can't imagine, having
And
kids.
and a fiance.
Yes, and my fiance. I mean, she's gonna be here, but I'm not gonna be able to
Yes.
see my dogs. So I can't wait to see her. Of course, I'm sure guys will wait to see their families and wives and girlfriends. Hopefully, make us all play better. Um, but yeah, man, it was beautiful to see, and I am getting a little envious of not having ones of my own. But soon enough, man, I get enough practicing. Soon enough, I'll have some little ones of my own.
So during a press conference last week, you mentioned that you wished, and as you alluded to just now, that you wish dogs were in the bubble.
Yeah.
So Danny, you are this is year 11 now, right?
Yes, year 11.
11 years in the league. The team rep in the NBPA for the Lakers.
None of that
Hey,
matters.
bro, did you flex your muscles a little bit
Not at
about these
all. I
dogs, or
don't. I
you
don't
didn't
have
you
any
didn't do it
juice,
right?
bro. Don't have any juice, bro. We've talked to a couple people about it. A lot of guys have their dogs or pets as emotional support animals. Cool. Some people have their dogs here, and they have houses with their parents, people outside of the bubble. They're just trying to bring them in for like an hour a day, but couldn't get it done, man. Hopefully, it said we pushed through, and we've been here this long. We gotta hopefully, if we keep winning, another month and a half. But I do miss my guys. But excited to see our loved ones. I'm excited to see my fiance and everybody else's families here, so that we can all feel kind of a little bit more at home.
For sure. For those who are not going to watch this on Spectrum Sportsnet, we're actually going to speak with Taylor Rooks from Bleacher Report, who actually also doesn't get to say her family members or bring anybody into the bubble. She's going to allude to that and a number of social justice topics that she was covering while down there in the bubble. But speaking of being in the bubble, Danny, and we'll talk about your performance in the first round. But I think you were very transparent when you spoke to the media, the first press conference after the hiatus had stopped, and you alluded to how social media can be, particularly being in the bubble, because that's the only outlet to the outside world. You can't go to a restaurant after a game, which you might like to do, or as you said, you can't go see your dogs after a game, or just walk down the street alongside quote unquote normal people. How have you? I assume you recognized how skewed your vision is of the world being inside the bubble, and then how have you processed trying to take in all of the stuff that comes from social media, particularly when you were going through that cold streak?
For sure, man. I try to see everything from all perspectives, man. I understand it, not just um, the situation I'm in, but the situation everybody's in. There's not much else going on around the world. People are watching basketball. There's not much else to watch. I mean, there's other sports starting to get back into it a little bit, but they're a huge focus on what we're doing, how we're playing. So a lot of people are tense inside the house, so they take it out on us half the time, more than a time, more times than none. But my nana used to say, people are gonna talk shit about Jesus and Muhammad, but makes you think you're safe. So I just try to block out the noise, man. Anybody that's negative comes across my page, usually just block them or ignore it. Um, but just try to stay focused and have their words and encouragement from my teammates, my coaches. Keep playing basketball. So yeah, I mean, especially playing a big market, that's expected. They're gonna talk crazy about you and talk crazy to you. People call it cyberbullying, whatever. There's so many ways. There's so many. That's the nicest way to say it. People just like to talk shit. They like to tell you in professional sports, it is the only job I think in the world as athletes, where people are gonna critique you. Publicly. When people come to your job and heckle you. There's not many jobs you have in the world. People are gonna come out on the outside and heckle you or tell you how to do your job. But that's why you get paid the big bucks. You get paid to, not just perform, but able to be on that platform, be able, be mentally tough enough to withstand all those things and fight through it. So hopefully this next series, all of us can. We hadn't played great basketball for a while. We had a couple good games in the first round, but hopefully we can build a rhythm, play better. Block out the outside noise, continue to push forward, push through, encourage each other. and have fun with it, man. And you know, so not focus on the negative and the real fans. You know, shout out to real friends that stuck with us when we were down on one. Shout out to the real friends, whether we're playing good or not, are still by our side, because those are the real ones. We know you also know who your true friends are. So some of your true friends have your back, you know, but some of them will still post memes and talk shit. You know, that's what they do. When that happens, I said memes are cool and all, it's funny and all, but when it comes to you, you don't see me, you know, doing that to you. So why would you do that to me? And if you're a true friend, you wouldn't, you know, post something for a laugh, which is cool. But you know, I don't take it to heart. But you just know where you stand with certain people and certain fans. So when it's all said and done, hopefully in October, if we continue to play the way I know we're capable, you know, we could tell those fake fans, you know, to go somewhere and do, you know, you know, won't invite them to the parade. So even though there probably won't be a parade because pandemic, we have to do something virtually. But if we are to win, you know, I can, you know, give those fake fans a couple fingers that they might not like too much, too well.
I'm sure that there is, even if there wasn't a real parade, an official parade, if Lakers fans get a title, I'm sure they'll find a way to push
Of
something
course,
out.
man. Fuck bandwagons. You're not real fans. It's bandwagon fans. You're only fans when things are going good. So those aren't true fans.
So and I recall, that makes me recall the one thing that Fred Van Fleet said last year when you guys were going through it.
Mm-hmm. Once you're on that
I
side,
think it
stay over
was,
there. Something like
yeah, if
that,
you're on
right?
that side, stay over there. It's interesting because, you know, I've known you for a while, and so, but there's a balance, and I know there's a part of you that kind of likes it. Like, for example, Tim Klusch, a high school basketball coach, very hard on you.
Mm-hmm.
Pop, very hard on you. So there's some things you're going to see on social media, and I'm curious to see or to know which, like, there has to be some posts that actually are negative about you that you actually might use as fuel, as opposed to just completely block it off. Because I would like to think, or like to know, or assume that negative commentary to a certain extent does actually fuel your motivations on top of being motivated yourself.
For sure. I remember even back when I remember all the teams that passed up on me, all the tweets, all the people that doubted me, even to this day, and especially now. So you know who your true friends are, you know your true fans are, and guys that you might show love to you in your face when you see them say what's up, but behind your back talking trash that are other celebrities or celebrity athletes, whatever it may be, which is cool and all. But you know, you hear those negative thoughts, those negative statements, those definitely help with that chip on your shoulder. It only adds some more fuel to the fire for you to prove them wrong. You know, they're doubters now too, but you know, and my coaches always thought I played better when I was mad, and that might be true. But sometimes I might need to, you know, write those statements down and put them in my locker and read them before the game, or just watch them before the game, because you know that does get me, you know, my skin, or you know, I guess a lot of emotions boiling. But I will use that um, as motivation to hopefully, you know, make them eat their words. Um, you know, but
Can
obviously, at the end
you
of the day, my focus is on our team and trying to win games. I don't try to go out as an individual and say, "Oh, I need individual points. I need to do this, do that." I try to use that and still stay within our game. But definitely, a couple of those things definitely stick out in my mind where I will never forget those. And when I see those people, I know how to interact with them when I do see them.
can you recall excuse me, can you recall a playoff game or a big game, whether it was college or, you know, professional, and as you alluded to, sometimes some of your coaches have said you played better when you're mad. Can you identify one of those games, one of those performances?
I can't give you specific games, but I do know throughout my career in high school, Clues was hard on me, tough on me. Pop and Coach Williams are all hard on me, tough on me, and just made me motivated. You know, not just for one game, but for a season, for a month, or just be focused, more locked in during that time. So, um, you know, and I like Frank. And Frank is just so nice sometimes. I'm not saying I wish he would be hard on me, but I know that there's times where he could be, you know, honest a little bit more on me, give me more of a task or more of a challenge, so that I can step up to the challenge. But I think he tries to, you know, especially in regular season games, tries to save me some, try to see how my body is. And I'm like, no, I'm be okay, man. You know, don't worry about it. I think I can handle this. I can get this done. You know, I'll step up to the challenge. Just challenge me sometimes. It's okay to do that. But he's a great coach, and we have great teammates, and they're encouraging. But Brown will challenge you. Some of our guys will challenge us, and we need that, you know, just to have that edge, a little bit fighting us. But you know, especially for the next round coming up, it's only gonna get harder each round. And but I have full faith in us. I think we can get, you know, 4 wins in the next round. Whoever comes out of it, it'll be a test. I think we're capable of being the last team standing, but we have to play up to our ability. And I think we can do that if we just trust each other and build on, each game.
And now let's actually refer to those games that you're referring to and how you guys were playing. By the game 5, obviously was an anomaly. I think Frank Vogel said that it was a mental challenge with Damian Lillard not playing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look back from games 2 through 4, and even starting back from game 1, the defense against that unit, C.J. McCollum, Damian Lillard, Melo, having flashes here and there, or even more than flashes, if that's not how you want to categorize it, have to be. I think all Lakers fans, NBA fans, have to be impressed with the defensive ability and effort that you guys put forth in that series.
I think they appreciate it. I don't think they're impressed by it. Not many things you can do to impress LA fans. Unless it's that it's a blowout win, then they're excited about it. But they're always wanting a blowout win, which is tough. But I think us in our locker room, our coaches and were impressed by us. But first and foremost, I have to give big shout out to Portland Trailblazers, man. Those guys came from down a couple games outside the playoffs, and to have a guy who has a fractured back in CJ Nurkic, who came back from a damn near season-ending injury, and come back and play heavy minutes right away. Also, the passing of his grandmother, if I'm not mistaken, played during that time. Melo, guy who was out of the league for damn near a year, come in. And Dame, what he's done, it put that team on his back. It's very inspiring, man. It's amazing. So big shout out to them. They played their asses off. They were the hottest team in the bubble. They came in, and they gave us a hell of a fight. In game 1, they had, the world shook. They had us shook. But I mean, we were very confident in ourselves. But big shout out to them, man. They played ball from start to finish. They had to play. Every game in here was a playoff game for them from start. So they might have ran out of gas. Unfortunately, that's probably what happened. They didn't have enough in the tank to keep that energy or keep that flowing throughout the series. Either way, it's still a dogfight. But defensively, yes, I know what our team is capable of. Even though with the loss of Avery, he's great for us picking up full court. But I think we have the bigs at the rim that protect it, and the guards, bigger guards that can do well on the perimeter to have give us a chance where we're shooting good or not. And there's times a lot of times we were not shooting good as a group, especially myself individually. So we're trying to find that rhythm as a group. I'm trying to find that as an individual. But the way we play defense, we're giving ourselves a chance to actually win games, whether we're hot or not. So that's always an upside. It's always a great outlook of it, positive outlook. But at the end of the day, we are going to have to start making some shots because there's going to be teams we're not going to be able to beat just by slowing them down or stopping them. Houston makes a lot of threes. The Clippers, they also in OKC, they play at a fast pace and shoot a lot of three. A lot of teams in this league are living and dying by the three ball. But they're living very well from three ball. So we're going to have to be able to score some and also be able to make some shots from the perimeter to be able to be the last team standing.
So when I look at how AD performed in this series, and I think, and you and I have talked about it before, I've had some conversations with some guys on the coaching staff as well. It felt like this was the AD. Obviously, he's always been a great defensive player, but offensively, it felt like a lot of things unlocked for him in this series. The mid-range was spectacular. The step backs over Hassan Whiteside, over Nurkic. It seemed as also too, he was getting the ball on the go, being able to attack the rim. Offensively, we already know where AD stands, and I'm pretty sure you weren't too happy about him not getting Defensive Player of the Year. But from an offensive standpoint, how would you evaluate what AD did? And obviously there was a bunch of talk about how he could potentially fit offensively with JaVale McGee on the floor, and it looked like it didn't matter. He was spectacular offensively all series.
He was, and he did exactly what we needed him to do and what we needed him to be. But he's a mismatch problem all around the league, and that's why he's so good. For fours, he's too big. For fives, he's too quick. And when they're playing too big, Hassan and Nurkic, they're great defenders. Hassan is a very good defender, arguably one of the top defensive players in the league at the rim and blocking shots. But when he's able to, he found his rhythm, being outside, using his speed. And our best offense for us is transition. So, playing half court is cool and all. We're good at, posting him up, posting Bron up, and Bron picking apart and, finding defenses, finding seams. But our best offense is when we're out and running. So when we had those two bigs and we had an emphasis to try to run and get him out on the floor running and also giving him space. So when he got the space, he's able to get a rhythm, find a shot. Those bigs are not comfortable guarding him out in the perimeter, so he's able to have more space and use his handle and get into a flow. And once he got that going, man, it was over for him. It was curtains, and he's the main reason why that series turned around for us.
So in the time that I spent when I was in Ohio covering the Cavaliers, it was interesting always watching LeBron, and I'm sure you know this, having played against him, haven't played with him. There's the days where he's still a dominant player, playmaking, he's still scoring, and then those are days where he feels like he is unstoppable. And a lot of it's because he approaches the three-point shot with a sense of free will, just taking them at his leisure. And it feels like it's a different type of LeBron when he feels like, I'm going to take the step back three-pointer, or I'm going to take it from near half court with 18 seconds on the shot clock just because I can. And when he does that, it feels like it adds another level of fear for the opponent. And it feels like LeBron's confidence in his jumper, all of a sudden, it really starts opening up so much more. How would you evaluate how LeBron looked, particularly after game one, where he really started to rev up his three-point attempts?
Man, fear is not I think they already fear him. When he starts hitting that jump shot and he starts playing over the top, it's pretty much they're giving up hope. They're just like, oh, fuck, what do we do now? We can't do, it's because he's so good at getting to the basket. He's so good at attacking, getting downhill. And if he's beating you over the top of hitting threes and he starts getting comfortable and getting that rhythm, there's not much you can do. You're not blocking the shot. Mind you, said you have to respect his drive, respect his speed and strength and his athleticism. So it's hard to just, press up into him. So when he's doing all those things, and what he did for us, 2 through 5, he was unstoppable. When he's one of those guys, he gets into that zone, there's not much they can do but put their hands up, give him a couple claps, pat him on the back and say, well, shit, we gave it our best. We're probably going home if he continues to do this. So I've played against him, and it's been like that, and I've played with them, and I know how it is for teams when he hits those shots. Those are draining daggers, regardless of what point in time of the game it is. It could be the first quarter with 11 minutes and 30 seconds. Guy hits an 18, 34 footer, or a half court shot, or we go on a nice little run, and he ends the run and caps it with a 6 feet behind the 3-point line type of three ball. You're like, damn, it's gonna be a long night. And at that point, you're like, shit, I don't know if we're gonna get this game. So he's finding his rhythm and finding his stroke, and he has 3 or 4 threes already added up into the game before halftime, or start of the third quarter. He's already got 4 in his pocket. You already know it's gonna be a long night, and you're probably not gonna end up with the win that night.
Scary player when he starts. He's already scary. You're right, and then when he starts doing that, it really is curtains for the defense.
Just hands up, shit. All right, we got it. We're going home, man. Fuck.
So, can you actually tell me? I know, obviously, you played LeBron, so let's dig into some of your expertise here. What were the conversations like with Greg Popovich back in 2013, 2014? What was his sentiment about guarding LeBron, particularly when he starts going off from three? Was it the same way, or how did that go?
We guarded him as if he wasn't gonna go off from three. So we played him and D Wade as if we're gonna make them beat us over the top. We know D Wade loves to reject the screen. He loves the spin move. He loves his backdoor cuts. Don't let him get to the basket. Don't let him get to the rim. Make him shoot, and make him shoot over us. Make him shoot jumpers, deeper jumpers. Make him shoot three. Make him beat it from three. And then obviously there's some games where they would come out and not make any shots, and then the next day those guys are Hall of Famers. They know exactly what we're doing. They're like, you know what? We got to step up the challenge. They're making every damn shot they took, whether it was a hand in their face or not, whether it was from three or from two or from pull up. And then we're like, damn, we did what the game plan was. If they're doing that, it's going to be hard to beat them, because we can't take away the jumper. They're going to get back to what they're good at, is just at the rim, backdoor cutting, spin moves, rejecting screens. Then it's going to be over for us. So we have to live with them trying to beat us over top. If they do beat us from over top, then you have to, give them 2 claps, pat on the back. And, hopefully, next game we come back and they miss some shots. But we have to, obviously, on the opposite end, too, make them play defense and execute and try to beat them as well. Try to outscore them at that point, because you're not going to stop them if they're making those shots.
So we alluded to LeBron as a basketball player, and we've had Jalen Rose on the show, and he talked about LeBron's efforts with the More Than a Vote campaign. And it's been a tumultuous time in the bubble, most recently in the wake of the Jacob Blake shooting and the fallout after that. LeBron has had a voice in terms of voting rights, and we see the Staples Center is now going to be used as a polling facility in a bunch of arenas around the league, thanks to the efforts that you and LeBron have put forth and the rest of the NBPA. Can you describe LeBron's involvement in that much reported on meeting, and the follow-up after that, and being an ambassador for what many would seem as the right thing to do as it pertains to voter suppression and things of the like?
His voice was huge, man, in that meeting, but in a great way. Obviously, you hear talks of he talked for this long and it turned players off. That's not what happened. But he spoke up when he needed to speak up. CP spoke, Iggy spoke, Jalen Brown spoke. Like a lot of guys spoke up when they needed to speak up and let their voice be heard. Melo, Damian Lillard, a lot of guys, CJ McCollum, a lot of guys spoke up when they needed to. And he obviously, when he speaks, people listen. And we made sure before we got to that meeting, we had our own team meeting each time, and we wanted to make a decision on everything and let it be known, if we're going to play, these are the things that we need to have happen and get done. And big shout out to you and Amjad. Thanks to you guys. We had a couple great ideas across the board that we could bring to the table to Chris Paul and let him know. And that was one of the main things he brought to the meeting of the bigger crowd before we cut it down to just player reps or a couple reps from each team and actually asked for it from the owners. And that was, opening every arena, make them voting polls. And that's one thing that teams and arenas and owners are already trying to work on in certain cities. So that's a win for us, and we're trying to get that done, and hopefully other teams follow suit. NFL, MLB, women's basketball, WNBA, soccer, all the way down the line, where people start opening up their arenas or places of where they play at to be voting polls. It's such a big thing right now because voting suppression is real. So that was one of the things, and there was a couple of things across the board, but he made his voice very much well heard when it needed to be, and spoke for the players, especially when it came to talking to the owners. And obviously Michael Jordan was part of the owners talking, and he kind of led the wave as being a black owner of trying to hear our side and trying to work with. They're all very supportive. Don't get me wrong. Obviously Mark Cuban, obviously Mike was who was the other main ones I'm trying to think of that was speaking on behalf of the owners. Well, Rick Carlisle led the charge when it came to coaches. Doc Rivers led the charge when it came to coaches. When it came to owners, Michael Jordan, Clippers owner,
Steve Ballmer,
Ricky, Miami owner, spoke a little. They all said something. Jeannie was great too. Jeannie Buss was great when she was speaking of it. Steve Ballmer, said Mark Cuban. We had a couple of great owners speak up alongside Mike to lead the charge and actually try to work with us and try to get things done on our behalf. So it was good to hear them speak and hear them have our back and feel the support from them in terms of trying to get things done and things change during this time, even though we're still trying to compete for a championship.
And obviously with everything that happened with the Bucks having the strike and you not having an idea, being woke up in the middle of a nap and not really knowing what's next, I know that it was a real thought for you that the season might not come back at one point because from my understanding, your fiance pushed back her flight a day because she didn't even know if the season would be happening. Obviously, she's trying to get there to spend time with you in the bubble. And she, at one point, decides, oh, maybe the season isn't happening. Maybe I'm going to Florida for no reason.
The flights were set on certain dates. It wasn't her flight particular. They were already set. It was for the team to leave. But they were up in the air. They weren't sure. She was like, well, should I start packing or not? Because, certain families were coming on the 29th, some were coming on the 31st. And luckily, this is previous before that happened. Some families are already in quarantine. But, so they were up in the air. They weren't sure if it was going to happen or not. If they were going to come now. They're like, let us know because we need to know if I need to pack or not if you're coming home. It was very up in the air. We woke up from that and trying to make, big decisions in a short amount of time, which was kind of crazy. Luckily, we had some time and guys got some good things done. I got a chance to talk without emotion and get hostile and actually come into some type of conclusions, some agreements and things that we need to get done and ask for. The proper steps moving forward. We had good guidance with our coaches, staff, everybody around us, owners, and I guess them reaching out to certain people outside sources outside the bubble, which gave them some good advice. So I'm glad that we got some things done and got it done quickly.
So obviously there's a list of 3 things that you guys have been able to initiate with the NBA between the NBPA and the NBA. One of the things that didn't happen, and I know this is a source of dissatisfaction for some of the players, is not being able to establish more days in between games. Because what has happened with the way the the TV schedule's kind of worked out, every other day there's games. So there doesn't really seem to be much opportunity for you guys as a collective to meet because everybody's playing games. One day you're practicing, resting, and it goes back and forth. I think the beautiful thing about this impromptu strike was that it really was the first time where all the players that were at least remaining in the bubble could actually meet all at once in one place and actually get some things down and some directives that you want to move forward with.
Yeah, that was the blessing in disguise. Even though we didn't have much of a plan, we weren't as prepared as we wanted to be, but we got time and we actually got a chance to actually meet as a group, which we haven't been able to because games every other day. They're trying to get us in and out of here as soon as possible and not extend the season longer than it has to be. We get it. Also, we have TV things in place. We understand that we don't want to mess up the TV deal, but it's important. We know since we got here, the reason we're coming here, not just for basketball, the biggest reason was that focusing on social injustice, focus on police brutality, focus on all the things that need to happen and change around our world and in our country, some of it in our backyard. And we haven't had a chance to talk on it. And we try to change that. Mind you, said it was important, but it wasn't the main focus. We know we can still, now having that break, we can find ways to still communicate it. And obviously some teams are no longer here. Some outside the, we want teams working outside the bubble for us too and with us. So that helps as well. The teams that are no longer here are gone. They can be, having meetings, Zoom calls, whatever needs to be happening, and lead the charge. So yeah, we got the things that we need done, voting polls. We got a board or a coalition, a justice coalition, to where they can overlook things when this does happen, if it does, which will happen again, which is unfortunate, to take action right away, and to get ads out on TV during our games to vote and make sure that it's out there. And we're trying to get that be seen as much as possible. So yeah, we got some good things done in a short amount of time, which is great. And obviously not everything we asked for is going to get done, but we got a good amount of it done. And hopefully that the teams that are not here or the teams that have time can lead the charge with keeping the conversation going and staying focused on those things. And so us getting that board will help that too, where we don't have to meet all the time and every day, but at least focus on having us at least a couple of meetings throughout the week to be able to converse about it.
I must say, and I've spoken to a number of people about this, I feel sorry might be too strong of a word, but I feel sorry that you guys have this responsibility. It's almost been thrust upon you because you are a select group of African American men in America with money who have visibility. And so all of a sudden you're being given this platform and given this almost responsibility to speak up on things that sometimes, to be frank, you're not obligated to be educated on.
Some of us have no idea about it, but we're obligated to be not just basketball players, but be politicians as well. And it's tough for some guys, but it comes with the territory, it comes with the job, it comes with the face, it comes with the platform. We get paid the big bucks, and the reason why we got the TV deals that we have, or the money that's come in the way it has, is because we're looked to more than the others, and so the people follow suit of what we do. So yes, a lot on our plate. It sucks, but that's what they kind of pay us to do. Obviously, we're paid to be basketball players, but that's not just our job here. We're here to be obviously inspiring the youth. We're here to be I guess role models, that too. But now we've always been here to be the face and the voice of our communities. And now we have to speak up not just for our communities, but all the communities around the world, and somewhat be politicians. So. It's tough, but I don't think it's anything we can't handle.
Speaking of which, Frank Vogel alluded to it in a press conference after leading into Game 5 against the Trailblazers. He said, "You guys have a PhD in handling adversity, and judging by everything that's happened, not just in the NBA, not just in this world, but specifically for your team, the Lakers." I'd imagine that statement is pretty true. I know they don't give out actual diplomas for that, but man, the things that you've had to juggle emotionally, physically, with COVID and everything, and all those type of things that have been polluting this world, I have to commend you guys for being able to handle all of it, and I assume you kind of agree with Frank's sentiment.
Definitely. And we've all been through some stuff previous this year. Guys probably had a PhD with getting out of their neighborhoods and making it to Division I level, making it to the league, and being in the league, 8 to 10 years. We have a lot of vets on our team, so guys have been through plenty, enough to have a PhD. But this year alone has definitely given us our master's degree and be able to handle adversity. So when it's all said and done, hopefully it's all worth it, and we can come out, on top and actually be able to celebrate. But either way, I know that whatever.
We're back with more Inside the Green Room with Danny Green. I'm Harrison Sanford, and I guess it's really not inside the green room. It's more inside the bubble. Some of the best reporting from inside the bubble has come from Bleacher Report / TNT host, reporter Taylor Rooks. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that you're saving a bottle of wine that might be back there for us at some point.
Oh, absolutely. This is like once the bubble's over and, maybe Danny wins the championship, we pop it and that'll be our celebration.
There we go.
For sure.
There we go.
Appreciate you joining us, man. It's been a pleasure. I mean, obviously it's refreshing to see you around the bubble. Today marks, I think, the end of some of the family and friends quarantine, and some are on their way out the quarantine. Tell the people how your experience was quarantining. And are you disappointed you're not able to bring someone in for you as well?
Oh my gosh, of course I'm disappointed. I'm like, what the heck? Like, media doesn't get like one little person that can enter into the bubble. But no, I get it. Obviously, you guys are the priority. You need to have your foundation around you if you are able to. I understand that. But quarantine, surprisingly for me, like, wasn't that unbearable. Like, it was just 7 days of like reading some books, watching some TV, revisiting old movies. So I enjoyed it, but I also was quarantining at home anyways. So I was used to just being in like a cage to try and stay as safe as possible from COVID-19. But yes, I miss my love and my loved ones, but I leave the end of September. So 30 more days and I'll be able to like see my family and all that good stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. A lot of people that have done the quarantine were, I guess, worried about how the food would be, and I told them you're going to be overfed. They send a lot of food.
Yeah.
So the presentation might not be great, but it's not bad food. They give you a lot of it.
Yeah.
Mentally, emotionally, the health wise, I don't think 7 days is tough. We did, I think, 2 when we came here. I had to do an extra one because they messed up the test. Me and Dwight's test came back invalid. So we do an extra day. But, for those of families that came in that do 7 days here, but some that came from the markets did 3 at home, which is a little easier to do, and 4 days here. So some of them are on the way here and doing their 4 days. But yeah, it can get a little bit antsy in that room. And some guys were going crazy. We're in the room for 2 or 3 days. So I can imagine 7 days would be a little different for you.
For sure. And something like kind of similar happened to me, sort of. My first test that I took was a false positive.
Yeah.
So like I got here Sunday, took the test. Monday, they're like, you have it. I was like, what? But I mean, I was shocked because I got a COVID test right before I came. I got COVID tests and antibodies. They were both negative. I'm like, how the hell do I have COVID now?
Mm-hmm.
Turns out it's false positive is fine. But so my first like couple days were incredibly eventful. So my quarantine wasn't boring at all. But I'm happy. I'm obviously safe and healthy and I was able to leave.
Yeah. Hey, Taylor, Danny, before you get your question, Taylor, who does Danny have to talk to get, I know he's getting family members and he's getting his fiance there. I know you're not able to, but who does Danny, who does Danny have to talk to?
Coworkers in?
No. Yeah, that's actually a good question now that you think about it, how you get coworkers in. But I'm thinking about actually Danny's pets. Who does he have to talk to get his 2 dogs into the bubble? Doesn't seem like it's too big of an ask.
Honestly, bring your dogs into the bubble, Danny. Also, if you want to bring a snake or 2, please feel free because the snakes will be amongst friends. I have seen so many lizards in this place.
A lot of reptiles out here.
Yeah, there are so many. And it's funny. I'm not even kidding you, Danny. Sometimes when I see the lizards, I like think, oh my God, Danny, because of how much you love reptiles.
Yeah, me and Dwight come to mind. But
yes, for sure.
A lot of us are struggling without our pets, man, our dogs. Obviously, we miss and love our friends and family and kids and our wives and girlfriends. But we won't get a chance, the opportunity to see our pets, which, it's very, we get it. You guys aren't allowed people in, our coaches, which is kind of crazy. They're not allowed to have wives or girlfriends in. So
crazy.
That's the toughest part. I feel bad for them because they're in the same situation, the same sacrifices as us they're making. So I feel for them. But it would be a lot lighter bubble if we had some pets in here.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then like everybody can just hang out with their pets outside. And then if y'all are outside, I could come hang out with the pets. So it would really just be and dogs really are like emotional support. Some people really do have their pets registered as emotional support. So
I do.
Nothing makes you happy. Yeah, see, nothing makes you happier than just like being around your pets, you know. So I miss my dog all the time. I have a white lab. She lives in Georgia with my mom. I didn't feel like it was fair to bring my dog to New York when she has a big house in Georgia and a big backyard instead of being in my little 1-bedroom apartment in Manhattan. But I miss her all the time.
Taylor, I think a lot of the NBA family has been thankful for your presence there. Obviously, having any journalists down in the bubble is key to telling the stories that are what happening, but particularly in this moment with the Black Lives Matter movement and things along those lines, social justice. I'm always intrigued, and I'm very happy with what I've seen, but I imagine as a journalist, it's a challenge because you have to tell the stories of the games. And at the same time, you have to tell the story of what's been happening outside of the bubble with social injustice and the players' impact on that. How have you been able to manage that? And if you could describe the challenge that it is for, maybe a potential journalist who's kind of maybe listening to this podcast or watching the show and trying to understand how you find that balance.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first, thank you for the compliment. That's very nice of you. I think that for me, I have always felt like my responsibility is to Black people and to women. Like those are the two things that have always felt incredibly paramount to me. And one of the reasons it's important to have Black people in this space is because for so long, it was really white men telling the story about Black men when it came to sports. It was white men telling the story about Black men and also, Black women. And it's important to have people telling stories about experiences that they too identify with, or that they too have gone through. And I think I always say sometimes I do feel like it's easier for players to talk to me because they feel some sense of familiarity. Even if they don't know me, you know how like Black people, we just kind of like, we're like, you know what I'm trying to say, like that's just a thing that is like kind of like this innate language that I would say that we have with one another. And I think that in a lot of ways that has been to my advantage when I'm interviewing people or when I'm asking questions. And the moment that always sticks out to me here in the bubble was Fred VanVleet came and did his press conference, and it was right after Jacob Blake, and he's very like visibly emotional and not talking about basketball at all, saying he didn't want basketball questions. He only wanted to talk about Jacob Blake. And so obviously people are throwing a bunch of questions about him, about the situation, like, what are y'all gonna do next? Or like, did you guys have a meeting, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, I just wanted to ask him how he was doing. Like nobody asks just like, how are you feeling? Like, because I know this is something that's really heavy for you too. And I think that it's just, I try to look at it as my job is to convey like their emotions to people and not necessarily just like this stuff that feels super grabby. So I try to do that in press conferences. I try to ask questions that will evoke meaningful responses and real responses, and try to do that with my reporting as well, just because everybody in this bubble really is in the middle of history. And the best thing that we can do is tell this historical moment in the most accurate, but also most thought-provoking way possible.
Yeah, it's a tough scenario and situation for everybody in here. Just going through a pandemic, being in a bubble, being away from your friends and families and loved ones, having to perform and play a game. Also looking at us to save the world in terms of, or our country, in terms of, trying to get things done off the court. And that's the biggest picture, or the main reason why we came down here, or the main reason that a lot of us, I guess when the deal was done, part of that, of us, coming down here was, that they focus on that. And sometimes along the way it gets lost. Sometimes, we have just game after game after game, and have a chance to talk about it, a chance to meet about it, and things are just happening so fast. Luckily Milwaukee took a stand, we followed suit, and we had a chance to actually, refocus on what the bigger picture is at hand. And I said, you don't know what things are going on with certain guys. I've been talking to George Hill, and some of his people are the same people back in Texas. Been meaning to, chop it up. I know he's going through it a little bit. So, not just having to play and perform on the court and get criticized from that off the court, but, everything outside of that, to, your loved ones, your friends, your family, to the social injustices, the cases that are going on, and the things that we're supposed to speak on. It's never easy. But, end of the day, basketball is basketball. We know that, and obviously we love to compete. But, we're going to be Black men forever. We have to continue to speak up, to help our communities, to address the media, be very cognizant of what's going on in the world outside of our bubble, and try our best to help going on outside, even though we're not there. Try to be a presence and try to be a voice for those outside the bubble.
For sure.
So every media availability, we try to speak on it. We try to bring awareness to it, and we're trying to make changes as we're doing that. And also at the same time, try to compete for a championship, which is not easy, but it'll get easier as our friends and family and some of our wives and girlfriends enter the bubble. It'll make it easier, but it's still not an ideal scenario or situation. We have so many things on our plate while trying to compete for a championship.
Yeah, no, and it really is a lot. Like, it's such a layered experience. And I keep on telling people, like, I hope there is just somebody who is like way smarter than me doing some type of like case study on this bubble. Like, it really is a social experiment. I mean, you have obviously the pandemic going on. So in a lot of ways, it's a scientific study you could do in the bubble. But also, this is such a controlled environment. Like, how does it really affect play? Is somebody looking at maybe the differences of like free throw makes here versus like regular season? I kept saying to myself, it would have been cool to see Ben Simmons play more, because I wonder if we see him take more threes when it's in this controlled environment versus when there's the pressure of being in a crowd. Like, there's so many things that you could be watching from this bubble. Also, obviously the meetings that are happening inside about people wanting to take a stand. Like, there's never been anything like this. For there to be one little radius like in Florida that has been the epicenter of so many things. Like, history really is going to look back on this specific moment. And like, I guess, Danny, this is a question I have for you. I asked Doc Rivers this. I also asked LeBron this. I said, in years to come, when history is talking about this bubble, like, what story do you want history to tell about this moment?
Man, it's so crazy because as of recent, so many people have passed, so many iconic legends we've lost in the past week. It's unbelievable, let alone this past year. And myself and a lot of my friends and a lot of guys on my team have just been reflecting and thinking about how we want to leave this earth. And this is a big part of the history of where we can make a mark and make a statement. And have we done enough or reached our full potential to helping our communities or helping people off the court? I would say basketball is great. They remember you for how well you performed, accolades, achievements. None of that really matters to us once we got here and we're going to reach this point. What really matters is, obviously our friends, family, loved ones, kids, what kind of legacy we leave behind, but what kind of mark we leave on those around us, our people, our communities. Our biggest focus right now is trying to make and take advantage of this moment in history and try to make the right, proper steps and do what's right, regardless of what the situation is money. We don't care about the money at this point. We don't care about. Obviously, we love to play the game, but we don't care about playing the game. We want to, leave our legacy and leave it behind and make sure that the future for our kids, our children's children, are going to be safe and have a better place to live in, so to speak. So I said it's a lot of things that we're thinking about, a lot of things that we're trying to handle and juggle while we're in. So many variables change, on the court and off the court of how we're operating. And you can see, I said we had those meetings this past couple of weeks or so. You can see the tense, just the hostility because of how guys are so antsy. Guys have been locked up here for 2 months, not having a normal type of their normal lives, and just having to juggle so much. Guys are kind of fed up with a lot of things and just fed up with how things are going on outside the bubble in our communities and our world, and still seeing it. These police not even aware of what's going on in the country. You're still shooting first before asking questions or even trying to stop people or apprehend them in different ways. So everybody's just mostly tired and drained. Shout out to all those guys that spoke up, especially Jamal Murray recently. Had a hell of a game, and his post-game speech or his post-game interview was all about what's going on outside of our bubble and for our people. As a youngster, he's so mature and very smart and very well aware. And so I commend him on speaking on it and using that opportunity and that platform, to bring it back to what's so important.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, when I watch, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off here.
No, you got it.
Watching Jamal, and I have so much hope about the future of this league because the younger guys really are in front of a lot of this movement. Jamal Murray talking at the end of the game yesterday after the big game, he made it about his shoes. It featured George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. That was important. Also, his opponent on that during that game. Donovan Mitchell has been so vocal. We saw him do things like wear the bulletproof vest to a game that had a list of names of people who were killed due to police brutality. Like, we also see someone like Jaylen Brown who drove from Boston to Atlanta just to protest. Like, just this younger core group of guys are going to play such a big role in what the future impact of the NBA looks like. Because I think sometimes it's easy to think like, okay, once Bron leaves, once Chris Paul leaves, once Melo leaves, once these guys who have been so vocal for so long are gone, like, is there still going to be this focus? But now I know, like, for sure, like, this next wave of stars and the next wave of superstars believe in it, you know, as much as those other guys too. So I think that every NBA fan should feel very good about that.
Yeah, when you look around the country, you kind of lose hope when you see certain people in offices. But when you look around our league, you know, I'm very hopeful and I'm proud of the young guys. And I think our league is in very good hands instead of these young stars coming up, not just on the court talent-wise, but off the court. They are smart individuals, and they're taking care of their communities, and they're taking care of business the way they need to and the way they should, and doing it the right way. So I commend all those guys.
Yeah.
DG, I think when we spoke, you mentioned that Jaylen Brown was a big voice during that NBPA meeting. And again, salute to all the younger players who are getting involved and making sure their voices are heard. DG, at the same time, did you tell Taylor how you felt about her, or how you felt her presence should have been at that NBPA meeting by any chance?
Did I tell her how I should have?
Remember we talked about
we did. I mean, her presence probably could have helped.
Yeah.
You know, just a room full of males, a lot of testosterone. There's going to be some, you know, hostility. There's going to be some tension.
DG wants the media in the meetings. He's tired of the leaks. Just put him in there. Just give you guys a closed circuit television feed so you guys hear it.
There's many angles. Obviously, we had Michelle there. We needed more women's perspective. Would have been nice, but for us to have these private meetings, it makes no sense when it gets out before we even get out of the meeting.
For sure.
I'm reading what's going on before. I'm like, how the hell? My homies are texting me like, "Yo, DG, is this going on?" I'm like, how the hell y'all get this information? Yeah, I might as well be in the meeting. I'm like, they might as well be there. There's no reason to have meetings if everybody in the world already knows it before.
Make it a press
Well,
conference.
we were definitely getting, like, you know, there was people tweeting very real-time updates of that first meeting. And I mean, granted, I broke the story of everything that happened between the owners and select members that did that call the next day. But to your point, though, and I don't necessarily know if this is a secret, but I talk to a lot of the guys in the league very often about the different things that you guys could do. They definitely do try to get the perspective of the Black woman, which I think is an incredibly necessary perspective. But the more that, you know, if you guys are in a meeting, you're talking about what can be done next, you have to have people that represent the intersectionality of all things. You know, maybe the things that I go through as a Black person are vastly different than the things you go through as a Black man. Not even maybe, I know they're different, you know, like we have gone through life being seen as different things. So there are needs for this community that maybe you guys don't recognize, not because you're intentionally trying not to, but because you literally haven't experienced them, right? So I do appreciate the players who do call me. I have had talks with players probably once a night throughout this whole time. People calling, what do you think of this? Would this work? Like, all that's important. NBA and NFL, right? I really do try to always offer as much as I can. This is a thing that I have, for quite some time, dedicated a large chunk of my life to. It was like the advancement of Black people. That's something that is very, very important to me. And I think it's important to use your voice for that. To your point about the media being in meetings, like, this is the gripe that I have with us. I say us, meaning the media. Do I think that it is important to talk about the nuance and the communications that happen in those meetings? Yes. I don't think it should have as much of a focus as it has had. Like, for example, we're talking about like what LeBron said or didn't say in a meeting, or talking about what Patrick Beverley said or didn't say in a meeting. We're taking the focus away from the change that is trying to happen. So while I see both sides, I'm also like, we don't want to muddle up the message because we care too much about the drama. And
exactly, instead of
that, you know,
that a lot of the negative is so. And
But
that's
I
the
get
only
it. I
thing.
get people are like, well, that's part of the story too. I understand that, but I'm saying I do see the both sides of it, and I just don't ever want to intentionally contribute to
That being the focus.
somebody, yeah, that being the focus.
And you can mention, so that's part of the story. And some of it, a lot of it gets leaked so fast. Y'all might as well be there. But, and also, y'all might as well be there so y'all can get the most accurate, because a lot of stuff that's leaking is not the most accurate information. It's just,
Yeah, for
when
sure.
it gets passed down the line, somebody tells, just like you tell somebody a secret and it gets passed the line, that secret is not going to be this is what it was, and it gets to person number 5. Like, oh, so and so cut off so and so, and somebody cut somebody. I'm like, wait, none of that happened. Oh, Bron
Yeah.
said this.
It gets muddled up the more
I'm like,
times
what?
that
Bron
it's
talked for
told, for
15
sure.
minutes and everybody was turned off. I'm like, what the hell? That never happened. Like, what's going on? I don't know where people getting the stories from. But hey, y'all run with, I mean, some people run with it. Y'all listen. Some people actually believe it. And they ask me, so I'm like, come on, man. Y'all know
Well, the thing I will say, and I learned this a long time ago, is like, you can't beat the internet.
Yeah.
Like you can't beat the internet, and people feel like they want to believe the narrative that they want to believe, and that's just kind of it. But I think that the flip side, not being able to beat the internet, which is sometimes good, but sometimes also really bad, is nobody gives a fuck the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah. There's so much other things going on.
Yeah,
There's always something
nobody.
new.
The attention span people have is so minimal. Like, and that's why, like, and I'm sure maybe you have or like experience with social media too. I think the first time that you feel like you are in the thick of like social media jokes or being a topic of conversation or a trending topic, you think like the world is over, like it's never gonna end.
Yeah.
But then you're like, wait, all you gotta do is get to the next day. Like, I don't care about what anybody says about me or anyone I know on social media, because it literally doesn't matter the next day.
Yeah.
Like, you just gotta go through that one hump.
Yeah.
And then you realize like, okay. Like, these people want to be negative. They want to be mean. Like, and it is not a reflection of you at all.
For sure. And good parts of the meeting was, the coaches were there. They had some good things to say. They did lead us on a good path, and a lot of stuff that they said I respected, understood it, and I wish they would have stayed for more of the meeting, because they said they can correct us when we're wrong, especially some of the young guys, and a lot of those coaches have been through it. Speaking of Doc Rivers, he gave a powerful message in one of his interviews, and he was there talking. A lot of guys, John Lucas, a lot of guys spoke. And they had been around, and they fought through most of their lives, some of their careers beforehand. So hearing from them and learning from them is huge. And I've played for Pop, so hearing him talk for us is always great. And that's one of the main reasons why I was happy and proud to play for him, not just being a Hall of Fame coach and being successful in winning games, because he fought for us and spoke up for us. How are you seeing the balance, of coaches, with them trying to drive in the conversations, while trying to stay focused, winning a championship? How do you see, guys like Doc, obviously Rick Carlisle, one of the top? How do you see them being active and trying to, I guess, drive the conversations around social injustice?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the role of coaches really cannot, be downplayed. They've been incredibly important. You talk about somebody like Pop, and I remember talking to DeMar DeRozan once, and he told me that like they came into a team meeting, and the whole team meeting was Pop showing them videos of police brutality. And like, or the next time they'll come to a meeting and it will be like a documentary about an incredibly successful Black man. Like, he dedicates a lot of time, specifically to that. I was talking to Lloyd Pierce on the phone a couple of days ago, and we had to hang up because he was sitting in the car waiting to hear from Jacob Blake's dad. And he was trying to figure out what the coaches can do to advance that cause and give him more of a voice. I recently learned that Rick Carlisle played such a pivotal role in real policy change in Dallas. He got strangleholds banned in Dallas, and he didn't even publicize it. It wasn't a thing that anybody even really knew. It was a thing that he felt was right and wanted to do. And now he's moved on to trying to get a ban on shooting at a moving vehicle. So like, coaches have been such a big part of this. You mentioned Doc Rivers. I have heard that he really has emerged as just like such this strong voice within this movement. He is always so good in the press conferences trying to convey exactly, what people feel like. Oh, that's important. The coaches, as I know you've seen them wearing like the the coaches for racial justice pins, which has been important. They have been partnering with Brian Stevenson, who is the lawyer depicted in Just Mercy. They've been partnering with him to figure out what changes that they can make to really make sure this is a long-term type of change and not just something that we're doing right now because we're in the bubble and there's a focus. Like, coaches are a big driver in how to make this lasting and really like infinite, you know, for the rest of this country's history. All
right, cool. Well, we know we want to keep you for too long. Harrison, do you want to ask the last question or you want me to ask the last question?
Yeah, go ahead. I have like 5 more minutes.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll get to it. Before everything that you guys have done, Danny has done as a player, speaking out on social injustice, you as a reporter, Taylor, giving the news and giving the perspective of the players and the coaches and things of that nature has been great. But thankfully enough, as you said, we do have about 5 minutes. So let's talk a little basketball real quick if we can.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, we'll try to make it quick. Who do you got? Celtics, Raptors. Obviously, Raptors lost game 1. I know where Danny might be leaning for some allegiances purposes, but how do you break down that series? And then after that, how would you break down Bucks versus Heat?
Yeah. Okay. So Celtics Raptors, I have said this the entire time that I think it is so crazy and unfair. The Raptors are the most untalked about defending champs I have ever seen in my life. Like, I get Kawhi left, people are like, oh, they're not going to win, but they are the defending champs. And I feel like people don't discuss them that much. So I want to give the Raptors all the respect they deserve. They play as a team. I love Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet's having an amazing level. Raptors are great. I am though going to choose the Celtics in that series. It's just
all that being said,
all that being said, but you know, you gotta give credit where credit's due. The Celtics, they just have so many offensive weapons. I mean, like, Jalen and Jason are so good. Jason is a superstar in the making. Then obviously they have Kemba, who is such a big piece. You would think that, okay, because Gordon Hayward went down, it's a bit of a disadvantage to them, and that is true, and I wish speedy recovery to Gordon Hayward. I hate that he has had to go through so many injuries. The only thing about that is they know how to adapt to the loss of Gordon Hayward because they have had to do it before. So I'm going to go Celtics for that one. Heat, Bucks.
Ooh.
The reason I hesitate on that one is for me, the Bucks go as Giannis goes. Mm-hmm. And if the Heat are able to throw a lot of bodies at Giannis, I mean, you have Bam Adebayo, who is a great defensive player. Jimmy Butler has never met a matchup he didn't like. You have Jay Crowder. I mean, if you can just keep throwing bodies at Giannis and Chris Middleton doesn't have a good night or Bledsoe doesn't have a good night, I mean, I'm not trying to simplify it that much, but it's kind of well, that's just what you got to do. And if they're able to do that, I don't know. I don't instantly go Bucks. I think a lot of people pick the Bucks. I'm kind of undecided. I think I got to at least see one game before I make my decision.
Hedging your bets. Hedging your bets.
What about you, Danny? Do you give your basketball takes?
I'll give my takes. I give my pros and cons, but I do not give my picks, especially when the playoffs is going on.
That's fair. I feel that totally.
And Toronto is one of the best teams I've seen play as a team out here in the league. They play championship basketball. Coach Nurse has done an amazing job of bouncing back with the loss of whoever and the guys that have added. They play. I said Fred is having a great year. Pascal, Kalo, all those guys are having a great year. OG seemed like
Norman's having a good year.
Norman's having a great year off the bench. So they're amazing. In Boston, they have a lot of, like you said, have a lot of firepower, a lot of weapons. And Tice is a big piece to that. And the young fella that's come off the bench for them, who's a big man, defensive player of the year.
Williams.
Yeah, Williams. He's stepped up. Mind you, Marcus Smart is hitting some big shots with him. So you got Jalen and Jason rolling. You got Marcus Smart and the role players. And Kemba, obviously a star, playing well. But you got Marcus Smart playing well, Tice, and Williams doing what they're supposed to do. They're tough to beat. So it's going to be a hell of a series. And I'm interested to see how Game 2 goes.
Yeah.
Miami, Milwaukee, going to be another tough series. I think both these series might go to 7. I think at least.
Yeah, and I'm kind of hoping for that.
And it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great basketball for everybody to watch. So both these series will go at least 6-7 games. So and it's gonna come down to the wire. So I'm interested to watch both of those. And I don't have any picks, but it's gonna be some great basketball, man.
Okay, I know
you know who I'm rooting for though.
Yes. Okay, I know you might not make a pick for this, but Jazz Nuggets has turned into one of the most exciting series. Like,
Oh,
would you
man.
pick that when it's already in a game 7, or will you at least give pros and cons?
I'll give you pros and cons.
Okay.
Taylor, you know how hard my job is with this nonsense.
I'm like maybe that one. It's like he doesn't have a dog in the fight. Like
the crazy thing is, I would have said Utah had them put away from.
Yeah.
Like, there's up 3-1, but I'm like, Denver has so much. They can beat them. I'm like, they don't need to pack their bags up. All they need is one game to turn this around. They got the one game. They bought some time. They got Gary Harris back. Unfortunately, they don't have Will Barton, that firepower off the bench for them, but they're a good team. And when Jamal Murray's rolling like he is, and you said Gary Harris back is another threat out there, and they have some good pieces. Jokic, of course, does what he does. That guy does everything, but he does it so easily. He makes it look, he looks lazy when he's doing it, but he's gonna dog. He's gonna get you a bucket.
Yeah.
But, they have so many pieces, man. And game 7 between them, oh man, it's gonna come down to the wire.
I will say though, I think a lot about the next round. Like in my head, I'm like, all right, okay, who do I want to face the Clippers?
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I'm like, I think I want to see the Jazz face the Clippers.
I think that might be a better matchup for them.
Yeah.
But I think Denver healthy would be a good one if they had everybody healthy. So it's hard to say, but either way, it's gonna be a hell of a game, hell of a series, and the next series, whoever comes out of that series, is gonna be well prepared. And have a good rhythm to be playing against the Clippers.
And good for you. You get to be big chilling, watching the games. You like, I'm just trying to figure out who I'm playing. Like.
Yeah, I mean that happens. We've been lucky in fortunate situations. So we have tonight to wait. Hopefully, find out by the night. It would be nice, so we're not sitting for too long. But big shout out to the fans that were still with us when we were down 0-1. Big shout out to those who thought we were going to get swept.
Some people try to board ship already, DJ.
Yeah, that was quite the day on Twitter.
Some people thought we were going to get swept. Like, the number one team in the West, you think we're going to get swept? Like, I understand you think we're going to lose a series. Okay, but to get swept is very disrespectful. But shout out to those who stuck with us when we were down 0-1. Like, But it's going to be interesting. And we're looking forward to the next series, which we feel like each series we wanted to prepare us for the next one. We don't want to play the easiest opponent. We want to play the guys that's the best. We want to play the best and beat the best and say that, we won a championship beating the best teams.
Yeah. For sure. No, I'm excited. Like the basketball has been good already. I really loved the seeding games, but I'm so excited about seeing the second round of playoffs and watch this like high level. I love nothing more than a game 7. So I'm excited to watch Nuggets Jazz. So it's been good. I have no complaints about the level of basketball competition that has occurred in this bubble.
Well, I'm glad it's helped Lakers stay in the bubble.
Lakers fans would think differently about those seeding games, but that's a story for another day. Taylor, we enjoy your time. Everybody, you should follow her on Twitter, on Instagram, and
tell us about the show
a segment. Take it there, yes.
Yes, for sure. Watch Take It There at Taylor Rooks. Danny is actually on an episode. He was so much fun. Him and Dwight, they got me to hold a bunch of snakes, which was the first time I'd ever done it, but it was so fun. Like I would totally go back. I'm happy to say that I've officially done that. But yes, so you can watch that show. I also am putting out interviews very often that are spinoffs of those that are obviously on the computer since we're in the middle of a pandemic. But follow me and you'll be able to see all the content, all the good stuff.
Hey, Taylor, I know you've been doing your fair share of reading in the bubble.
Yeah.
Danny, I don't think Danny's been doing too much of that, but he has been learning Spanish. So,
have you really?
I've been taking a class. I mean, give me another month before I comfortably start speaking it somewhat fluently, but I do.
Can you say goodbye to Taylor and to our fans? Can you tell them to tune in next time?
Adios. Yo hablo español un poquito.
Un poquito? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can say adios, goodbye.
Yeah.
No, like tú hablas conmigo. Tú hablas conmigo.
Okay, I mean, we can have this conversation.
I was saying you talk with me. Let's talk. Yeah.
I said we can have this conversation when people are not judging my Spanish on air. But yeah, I can speak a little Spanish.
Bien. Yo entiendo.
There's a lot of phrases I can give to you, Harrison, to say goodbye.
Okay.
Say adios, nos vemos means see you later, see you next time, nos vemos. There's a lot of ones.
Wait, just out of curiosity, why are you learning? Just because you want to?
I always want to pick up another language.
I love that.
I kind of felt I wouldn't say, yeah, I felt kind of dumb not having a second language. Everybody, like a lot of the people, especially with all the places I travel to, everybody knows more than one language. I always go to a lot of Spanish-speaking countries. Mind you, I mean, this is further down the line. When I have children, I'm sure I'm going to want them to learn Spanish growing up. It'll be easy for them. Can't have them knowing Spanish and me not knowing Spanish and them talking shit about me. So,
well, I will say, like, one thing I did to like brush up my Spanish, because I took it in high school and I was like pretty good at it, and then I wanted to like know more and know it like semi-fluently. You should download Duolingo if you don't have that.
Yeah, I've done the Rosetta Stone. I've done Duolingo, but I've been doing Lingo Live. Shout out to Amjad, who put me on Lingo Live. It's actually a professor.
Okay.
We talk on a Zoom call. I actually have a class tonight at 9 p.m. We talk on a Zoom call, and we talk for about 45 minutes.
Oh, I love
about
this
our
so
day.
much.
Yeah, it's been going pretty solid. I've learned some more. I just got to do more studying. If I studied more, I probably would have it a lot more down sooner. And I've also been watching some TV series in Spanish, which helps. So
yeah, that's what they say. It's like if you immerse yourself in it, you will, you know, pick it up a little more. I want to get a bit better. I wouldn't say I'm fluent, but I maybe like if 100% is speaking it the way I speak English, I'm maybe like 40. Like I could survive there for like a month or so.
Hey, DG, just don't put out any classifieds or advertisements for a co-host who speaks Spanish, because it's going to take me some time.
Your ass is going to be gone.
That's funny.
Appreciate your time, Taylor. Thank you so much for jumping on and sharing us your thoughts. Keep the fight alive. Keep letting people know. Keep fighting. Obviously, keep making your voice be heard, especially for Black women, but our people. Enjoy the bubbles when you can. Hopefully it stays still as good as it was from the beginning to the end, and you have good basketball. But have a great time. Hopefully get back to your family and your dog soon. Enjoy the bubble basketball while you're here.
Oh, well, gracias y de nada. Yo soy muy contenta. No, I am very happy that you guys had me on the show. I had so much fun. I love seeing so many of you like delve into the podcast space and media space, because your voices are so necessary, and we just need more of it. Like, you're the voice we want to hear from. So loved the pod. Thank you for having me. Nice to see you, Harrison. And also, Danny, keep going. Good luck.
Thank you.
I'll be watching you in the bubble.
Gracias.
Before we do close, though, we'd be remiss not to remember some of the icons and heroes that have left us. Most recently, Lute Olson, the famous Arizona coach. Chadwick Boseman was a star in Hollywood of Black Panther. Most people know him from that film, as well as Clifford Robinson, revolutionized the game as a stretch forward in the NBA. And most recently, John Thompson, who was an icon in Big East basketball and kind of set the path for Georgetown, and players such as Allen Iverson and Alonzo Mourning, Dikembe Mutombo, Patrick Ewing. The list goes on and on. And then on top of that, Danny, we also are keeping in our minds your former college community at Chapel Hill, where the COVID-19 positivity rate, as they've started the semester, has been upwards of 30%. So as much as it is happy to see you guys progress into the second round, man, it's been a heavy year, and particularly this past week.
Yeah, the times are tough, man. 2020 is really, really disheartening, man. It's a very heartbreaking year. We've lost so many iconic people. And big shout out to all those people you've listed and named. They're all legends, man, in my mind. All superheroes, especially Chadwick. That one hit home. I never told you about the time I actually met him in the airport. And this is before pre-Black Panther. I think he might have just finished filming 42. And the guy showed me a lot of love and respect and was a fan. And I was a big fan. We took a picture. I couldn't find the picture. I looked for it all day, all week. And I couldn't find it. But, man, that guy showed love to everybody. And everybody felt his energy. That's why it hurt so much. He was a very private person, which people respected even more. But all those people, Coach Thompson, I remember being recruited at Georgetown and getting a chance to meet him. So these guys are legendary people, man, and prayers go out to their families. And obviously, the campus where I grew up, became an adult on University of Chapel Hill. The rates are going up. You guys are in our prayers. We know you'll fight through it. Obviously, still keeping in contact with the basketball side of things. They'll keep me updated what's going on, and they're out in the streets. They're out there, doing the protests. They're out there fighting the fight as well, and making things aware, making people aware around campus of what's going on and the changes they want to make around campus, because there's a lot of things that need to be changed around that campus as well. But they're leading the charge there, which is amazing. So I commend those guys, the whole basketball team and the front office there. Coach Williams, of course, using his voice, using his presence. They're all using their presence to speak volumes throughout that campus. But the biggest key right now is for everybody to be healthy and be safe. So, stay inside, stay close to your loved ones, quarantine, and hopefully the rates will go back down, and hopefully campus will, back to normal. But we're praying for you guys.
Yeah, 2020 has been a wicked year to say the least. But again, 2020 is not over. A lot of opportunities for wins. So hope everybody gets that in their personal life. Hope, Danny, you get some in your basketball professional life. And we'll be back to doing this podcast inside the green room with Danny Green next time around. See you then.